It is Thursday, October 29th, 2020. Thanks for watching the Calvary Briefing today. And as always, I wanted to remind you that we have in-person worship services this coming Sunday at 9:30 and 11, and we have room in both of those services. Please call in, text us, or email us and let us know that you're coming. We also have a quarterly business meeting at 10:45 this Sunday, and we'd also like to know if you're coming to that. This is the last briefing that will be sent out before November 3rd, and so I thought that I would talk politics and voting today. And there are a couple of young Southern Baptist writers that I wanted to reference, a man named Trevin Wax and a pastor named David Platt. Wax is a writer, and Platt pastors a church in Virginia right next to the nation's capital, and many, many people involved in government go to his church. The article that Trevin Wax wrote that grabbed my attention this week was entitled, "Why Many Americans Will Be Shocked on Election Day." And he answers this question by telling us this: we will be shocked on Election Day because fewer and fewer Americans live in communities or have close relationships with people who vote differently than they do. You may be shocked because you are surrounded by people who vote just like you. We'll also be shocked because fewer and fewer of us trust the polls and the surveys that signal the state of the race. We also may be shocked because of social media algorithms that reinforce our existing political impressions. Many years ago, in 1972, a film critic by the name of Pauline Kael of the New York Times was quoted as saying this: after Richard Nixon won in a landslide, Pauline said, "Richard Nixon couldn't have been elected. I don't know a single person who voted for him." And so this has been the case for a number of years, that we tend to be around people who think the way we do and vote the way we do. David Wasserman in 2016 said, "If you feel like you hardly know anyone who disagrees with you about Donald Trump, you're not alone. Chances are that in your backyard, the election was a landslide." Here's what is interesting about the 2016 election. There are 3,113 counties in the United States of America. Of those 3,113 counties, 303 had elections or were decided by less than 10%. In contrast, 1,096 counties, almost over a third of the counties, had an election where the spread was greater than 50%. 50%. And so you see that in time, our counties even tend to be filled with people who are very, very similar. Both liberals and conservatives show a tendency to want to migrate to communities where they would fit in with those around them, says Alan Greenblatt. It is also interesting that on social media, we are constantly reinforced with things that we like. The algorithms and the way that social media works is that when you like things, you see more of the things that you like. 74% of Christians are on Facebook at least 2 or 3 times a week, and almost half of Christians say that they prefer to friend people who share their beliefs. And 53% of those on Facebook say that they want to hear and read news from people who share their belief systems. So, with this being the case in our country, and this being the case with us as followers of Christ, what should we do? Well, Trevin Wax has some great suggestions. Number one, Remember that our king is not up for re-election. Our king is not up for re-election. Number 2, aim at moving out of your comfort zone and friend some different types of people. If you are always talking to the same people who say the same things that you say, maybe it'd be good for you to talk to some different kinds of people every once in a while. And thirdly, Wax says, show the world what a community looks like where allegiance to Christ transcends the political differences at this moment in time. Whatever happens on November 3rd, may we show that our allegiance to Jesus Christ makes all of this less significant in our lives. Wax closes his little article by saying, whatever happens on Election Day, don't be shocked. Be settled, firm in your faith, kind in your convictions, gracious in your words, generous in your actions. We belong to a community that believes that no election and surprise will ever compare with Easter morning. Well, David Platt also wrote a short book entitled Before You Vote, and he gave some suggestions about what we should do. But he urges us to remember to think and pray and think about what Jesus would do as we cast our votes and be thinking about what will help those around us. But at the end of his book, he writes this: even if we lose every freedom and protection that we have as followers of Jesus in the United States, and even if our government were to become a completely totalitarian regime, we could still live an abundant life as long as we don't look to political leaders, platforms, or policies for our ultimate security and satisfaction. Regardless of what happens in this coming election on November 3rd, I know something for certain. It's something that Paul told the Philippians when he wrote to them a letter in the first century. He said this: therefore, God has highly exalted him and bestowed on him the name that is above all names, so that the name of Jesus every knee should bow in heaven and on earth and under the earth, and every tongue confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. I know that's going to happen. Have a great week.